to the first episode of West is Best. I told y'all about this in the previous live with Dylan on Breaking Broncos. I make promises, I keep promises. I got my guy Quinn Thomas right over here. He is from Full Sail University, where we met. I will go ahead and let Quinn introduce himself, let him know a little bit about yourself, man, and ingratiate yourself to the fans.
Of course. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to do this. It's going to be a really good time. Love repping the West Coast. I'm a Bay Area, born and raised, live in San Francisco now. And yeah, we're at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. We're actually almost done, which is crazy to think about. Crazy to think about.
Classes.
Yeah, I was looking at my upcoming classes, and I saw graduation launch as one of them, and it's a little terrifying. But other than that, yeah, live in San Francisco, big Giants fan, love the Saints as well, and obviously my Warriors. So yeah, I'm excited to get started. Love showing love to the West Coast.
Yes, most definitely. Two Wild West cats gunslinging out here, covering anything and everything with no fear. So let's go ahead and let's get started. We got a little bit of everything for y'all. We're going to be covering the NFL, the NBA, and the MLB. So strap in. Let's go. First off, the biggest story of the weekend, obviously, NFL draft just ended. To you, who did it best and who did it worst?
I mean, do you want me to be biased or do you want me to try to be accurate here?
We strive for accuracy, but we understand homerism.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll do one of each. I think the Jets really showed out in the draft. Got a lot of offensive weapons, which is great, and hopefully they can keep building around Zach Wilson. He'll actually develop into the quarterback they want him to be. So if that ends up being the case, I think the Jets are one clear winner. And then I'll go with my bias. I think the Saints drafting Chris Olave in the first round, getting another wide receiver opposite Michael Thomas, shoring up that offensive line as well. Later in the first round, and then we'll get into it a little bit later, but their draft picks make a lot more sense knowing who they just signed. So I think definitely the Jets and the Saints are two big winners.
All right. Those are really good picks. My number one winner is the Baltimore Ravens. I know it seems ad nauseum every year the Baltimore Ravens seem to knock it out of the park, but this year they hit on every need, want, best player available. DaCosta absolutely killed it. I mean, from their first pick, Kyle Hamilton, who should have been a top 5 pick. I do not get the disrespect of safeties. I really do not. But Kyle Hamilton is going to be a beast. And I think he was only their pick because the Eagles jumped in front of them to grab Jordan Davis, who I had mocked to Baltimore since the combine, because he just seemed like the Halati Nada replacement there. But yeah, the Ravens, they're my biggest winners because they got their first 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. All of them were in discussions to be first round picks. So they just absolutely killed that. Now, when it comes to the worst, it's got to be Eberflus and the Bears. I don't know what they were thinking. None of their picks make any sense. You needed all the offensive line help you could possibly get. And the first time that you pick one is in the 5th round with Braxton Jones. That makes absolutely no sense to me. So the loser is the Bears, winner is the Ravens. Who's your loser?
Baker Mayfield.
That was low-hanging fruit, but I get it.
It was low-hanging fruit. I feel like the best opportunity for him to find a new home and a good space was in the draft. I mean, there weren't that many good quarterback prospects, and I mean, nobody's going to make a trade for him, whether it be for picks or what have you. I really expected to see him get moved, and he didn't. And I mean, I don't know what the future holds for him, but it's not looking great.
Yeah, same here. Me and Dylan talked about this earlier, but I have no problem going back into this. I do not get the Baker Mayfield disrespect either. Just like the safety disrespect, I don't get it. This man played with injuries that would have had most people in a hospital. Okay? Yeah. And yeah, he suffered for it. Why are you penalizing him for bad play calling, bad play by his supporting cast, and he was injured almost the entire season with serious injuries that most would go on to the IR for, and this man pushed through for a team that went nowhere. So how he did not find a new home is beyond me. I am honestly just super fluxed when it comes to that whole scenario of Baker Mayfield still not having a home. Me and Dylan, we kind of came to the conclusion Houston's probably his best option when it comes to finding a home. Not the best option of anywhere anybody wants to be, but it seems to be his best option.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Baker Mayfield. I do get your point. He was playing through injuries, and I mean that man has just he's got a lot of heart, and he puts everything out there on the field every time he plays. But there are a lot of better options for quarterbacks out there in the NFL. Granted, there are a lot of worse options, and there are a lot of worse options that have starting jobs right now. And I don't know what the Browns are looking to get for him, and that could be a reason he hasn't moved yet. Or they could just really have animosity towards Baker Mayfield and just don't want him to find a home period and want him to spend the rest of his career as a backup. I don't know what the deal is, but he's worthy of a starting job somewhere, probably not a contender. I really, really don't like to say it, but you're probably right with the Texans. That's just so sad.
It really is sad. I mean, nobody wants to go to Houston. That's a place you just go to die. But I think your point was pretty satiant. Like, what are the Browns asking for? I think that's a question we need an answer for, because if they are sitting out here trying to get the same, like something similar to Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, that's not going to happen. It's just play. Even if Baker Mayfield went out and balled this past season, they're not getting the same type of compensation. So it definitely could be a factor of the Browns are just asking too much, and they may just be waiting until training camp as well, like seeing what quarterback goes down and what team gets desperate and will give them what they're asking for. So all of those questions are relevant and probably not ones we're going to get answers to anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. I do think he'll be on the new team by the start of I would say preseason. It really depends. I mean, yeah, it depends on how desperate some teams get. I mean, there are a few teams that are a quarterback away from, I don't know, having a 500 season. Is Baker Mayfield going to be that guy?
I mean, he definitely could be in the right situation, but I just have the horrid feeling that they are going to set him up to fail. They're going to send him at the last minute to some desperate team that's not going to be a contender with or without him. And he is just going to be set up to fail. And he's going to end up being that journeyman quarterback along the lines of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, not because of his talent, but just because of the way people view him and the way his storyline has gone.
I knew you were going to bring up Ryan Fitzpatrick there. But no, I mean, look, we're going to be starting week 1 of the NFL season, and we're going to see Baker Mayfield as an Atlanta Falcon. And you know what? I'm here for that.
Really, though? I mean, even after they got Ritter and yeah, okay. I was going to say, I mean, I guess they kind of need a quarterback, but I mean, they already got Mariota. They just drafted Ritter, but yeah, I get where you're going.
I get that.
You just want to throw some salt.
Well, obviously throwing salt at the Falcons, but just the whole setting up for the worst possible situation. I can't think of a worse situation than the Falcons, other than, the Texans are just a bad franchise, but the Falcons, they've got quarterbacks in that room. They invested in the draft. They just signed Mariota, and they're a bad team. So bad situation.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, it's just like somebody put voodoo on them. Maybe it's that New Orleans sending over the vibes. It's just, no matter what they seem to do, even when they do smart moves, they seem to backfire on them. I get where you're going with that. But now this is, we're talking about things possibly backfiring because of whatever may be coming with him in that bag. But Tyrann Mathieu has a new bag, 3 years, $33 million. What does he mean to your Saints defense?
I mean, you can look at a number of things. One, he's the Malcolm Jenkins replacement. Malcolm Jenkins is a defensive leader. Tyrann Mathieu is, the ultimate defensive leader. Jenkins retired. We needed to find another safety. We already signed Marcus May earlier in the offseason from the Jets. He's going to be great. And I think what all of this means and what the Saints have done in the draft, what that means, what they've done so far this offseason is they're showing so much confidence in Jameis Winston and this win now mentality. Mickey Loomis has been saying this ever since the season ended, but they believe they're 1 or 2 pieces away from having another Super Bowl contending team. Now, I'm not saying the Honey Badger is that piece and now they're a Super Bowl contending team. I do think they're probably a top 5 team in the NFC. With this move, that defense will be elite. They've got depth at every single position. They've got probably an elite linebacking core, great secondary. And then they've got a defensive line with Cam Jordan on there as well. So he's just another piece, another leadership piece. I mean, he's just a winner, and he's going back home to LSU. I don't see how this is a bad signing at all. I can see that, injuries can derail any free agent signing, but this is a move that the Saints felt they had to make, and it's a move they went out and made.
But do you think? I mean, because Matthew's what 33 now,
Sure.
so this takes him to year 36. You think giving 3 years and 33 million to that old of a player is maybe stretching it a little bit? Because I mean, honestly, the way he's played it has declined over the last couple of years. You might get a year, maybe two out of those three, where he's playing like the Honey Badger of old. Do you, I mean, do you like the fact that they were willing to go that many years and that many dollars to
I mean,
get
it's
that
the way
replacement?
it's going that many years is the way they probably had to structure that contract to get around the salary cap. And at this point, I'm not going to question anything Mickey Loomis does with the financial side of it, because again, he's been in salary cap purgatory for I don't even know how long. So that is probably part of it. And also, even if he's not going to be on the field for every snap of every game, even if he's not going to be playing at that elite level, he's going to be that leader in the secondary that we need with a Marshawn Lattimore as kind of a younger guy. He's been in the league for what, 6 years? But kind of just rounding out that team and being that leadership in the secondary. You've got Demario Davis on the linebacking core, and you've got Cam Jordan, but we lost a big hole with Malcolm Jenkins, and Malcolm Jenkins played pretty well over the last few years, but it was mostly his leadership that was so key for us.
So you're saying that they paid more for the locker room presence than the field presence.
I think they're paying for a field presence because he's still a great safety, a really good safety, and they're going to need that production at the safety. But I think why he got 3 years and 33 million is he was going to demand that in the market anyway, and they needed their guy. And a locker room and a leadership presence is a big part of that.
My thing is that if there's a veteran left on the free agent market this late in the year, the most you should be giving them is a 1 year deal. I get where you're coming from. I get what you're saying with the whole leadership thing, but this is how you get yourself into the salary cap purgatory that you can't get out of. That would be my worry if I was a Saints fan, is how good is this deal going to look a year two down the road? Like this year, it's going to look good. $11 million for a top 15 safety. It's not terrible. It's a little bit of an overpay, but it's not terrible. My thing is, what is it going to look like in year two and year three? How much is he going to play? How productive is he going to be? And yes, a locker room leadership is important, but you don't pay for locker room leadership. You pay for them to be on the field. Then the locker room leadership, it comes, as a bonus. To me, I'm not a guy that pays for leadership. I've never understood paying for a subpar player when you could pay less to get a better player just because they're a good locker room presence. I
I'm
understand
sorry. Are we now
you've lost
calling
it.
Tyrann Mathieu a subpar player?
I'm not saying yet. I am
Okay.
saying, what is it in year 2 or 3? Like I said, this year it will look good. He will still
What's
be good enough to justify $11 million. Year 2 and 3, though, at age 35 and 36, with the way that he plays, how reckless he plays, and his body's already started to break down from it, how good is that $11 million that's tied up in a safety gonna be at that point?
so
That's what I worry about.
if you see a big decline in play over the next 2 years, you can look for one of two things to happen. You can look for the Saints to release him and clear up cap space that way. You can look for his contract to be restructured just so he can stay on the team. This is something they've done countless times before. They did it with Quan Alexander last offseason. They made a trade for him midseason from the Niners. They got him. Obviously, he tore his ACL. And as he was recovering, they released him in the offseason and then re-signed him at the end of the offseason for a much lower deal. So, I mean, there's ways to fluctuate through all of that. I think the 3 years, $33 million is a way to kind of spread that money out and not have to invest all that capital in him right now. And again, put them over a salary cap or have any issues with that. And it's also a way to give him some sense of security to bring him to New Orleans.
I got you. Yeah, I'm just trying to look. I was trying to see if I could find how they structured the deal, because it would really help us to talk on this a lot more. But
I
unfortunately, it
agree.
just shows 3 years, 31.5 million. So we don't know how it's structured. So yes, you are 100% correct. It depends on the guarantees and where those guarantees end. If all of the guarantees are in year one and they can skip out of it after year one without anything or minimum dead cap, I would say the Saints got to win. I will agree with you there. There's some way for them to get out of it, but if they guaranteed more than half of this,
They
then it's a
guaranteed
bad deal.
18 million.
Okay, then they're at least stuck with him for 2 years. So without taking a cap, it year three probably is not guaranteed. That's with the 18 million guaranteed. So I don't like giving him that much money, but again, the Saints were kind of pressed up against the wall. Like you said, they'd lost Malcolm Jenkins. They didn't replace him in any way throughout free agency or the draft. So what do? You go out and you get the best player available. You give him what you need to get him in the building, and then you figure it out from there. Like you said, possible restructures, things of that nature can definitely make it more palatable. Now, I don't want to sit here and just say like this is a bad deal. I love Tyrann Mathieu in that defense with the way that Williams will attack everything, the way he blitzes. Tyrann is a perfect chess piece with him. I'm just worried about the age in that. But again, like you said, that's a can you can kick down the road for later. So overall, I think we both agree. Very good deal. Will help elevate this defense a little bit more, give them a little bit of that dog mentality that you always want, especially in your secondary. So overall, I'd say probably a B minus would be my grade on that deal.
I mean, the one thing I want to add is it's important to remember that the Saints also lost Marcus Williams this offseason. I mean, they went out and signed
True.
Marcus May as that replacement as their younger safety, and I love that because Marcus May can actually tackle.
Yes,
but
big box safety.
But the one piece was missing was that leadership in the secondary, and I'm going to keep going back to that. And it's on the field, it's off the field, it's in the locker room. I mean, that's what Tyrann Mathieu wins. He's a winner, or brings. He's a winner, and so was Malcolm Jenkins. And I really think with the pieces we already have in the secondary, that's what they needed.
All right, I can't really argue with that. So we're going to go ahead and go away from that argument onto one that's happening on the baseball diamond, and that is your San Francisco Giants and the unwritten rules of baseball. So what I want to ask is, how do you see the Giants' quote unquote violations and the unwritten rules argument as a whole?
Okay, so I remember playing baseball. I was on a travel ball team when I was younger. We were up 9-0 in the last inning, and I stole second base because I wanted to steal. And the coach from the other dugout started yelling at my coach saying, 9-run lead. And my coach, I got back to the dugout, and my coach said, we just don't do that. And I said, why don't we do that? I'm still playing the game. I get it. It's little league, whatever it is. Now we're talking about the Giants in this situation. How do I feel about the unwritten rules? I think there are probably some that are fine, but the mentality that the Giants have gone into this with, I think, is the biggest point. I think if what the Giants were doing was try to show up the opponent, be disrespectful, and humiliate them, I'll talk about that in a second, but I think that makes it a little bit different than what we're actually seeing. The Giants' philosophy behind this is you're playing a series. You want to win that series. So if you're up 6 runs in the 5th inning and you want to steal a base, the idea is to get deeper into the opposing team's bullpen, burn some more arms, and then put them at a disadvantage for the rest of the series. You want to score as many runs as possible. So I think if you're a professional team and you're feeling embarrassed because of that, then why are we even playing the game? Play better.
Play better. Yes. I was waiting for you to say, I was wondering when you were going to get that because I believe it was Slater that said that after the latest flap. So for those that don't know about what the Giants have done, the first one was against the Nationals, right? Or was the first
one was against the Padres?
The Padres, yes. The last team that ever needs to complain about unwritten rules. That was the thing that got me. Like, really, Padres? Wasn't it just a couple seasons ago that everybody was ripping you about the unwritten rules for Fernando Tatis Jr. swinging 3-0 with a 7-run lead and hitting a grand slam? Like,
here's the thing about that. Here's the thing about that. Tatis did that, and then his team and his manager both called him out for that and told him he shouldn't do it.
Right.
But,
true. But again, oh, Jesus, this light, dude, I swear to God. and then it turns back on because I moved. Anyways, this light's going to drive me nuts, dude. I've been fighting with the people here at the building to get me something other than this timed freaking light switch. It's driving me nuts. But anyways, yes, to your point, I want to do a cross sports comparison. This reminds me a lot of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady in the NFL when they were running up scores, like the Tebow playoff game where they beat the Broncos by like 40 points. And people were talking about, why are you running up the score? And he had the same response as Slater did, which was, hey, this is the NFL. This isn't Little League. If you don't want us to score 40 points, stop us from scoring 40 points. It's the same concept here. This is the major leagues. Like you said, I get it in Little League and high school and stuff. You don't want to break a poor kid's heart. I know that people are so sensitive nowadays that they can't have their kids cry. So I get that. But this is the major leagues, people. The major leagues. These are grown men. If you're getting your fifis hurt because a guy stole a base in the 9th inning when they have a 6-run lead, well, guess what? Do it to them the next time. And I loved you brought up the point of the mindset of the Giants. I love playing through to the last out. I can't tell you, especially being a Colorado fan, where I have seen 11-run leads evaporate with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Like, you never know what's going to happen in this game. And I love that Kapler brought up the fact, like with the Nationals, like they got Soto, Bell, and all of them. 1 walk, 2 walks, and a blast. All of a sudden, we have a completely different ball game.
Well, that one was the most. Sorry to interject here. We're going to see a lot of teams get upset with the Giants this year. It's not over. It's going to keep happening. No. They've made it clear that they're not going to stop playing the way that they play. And we're going to see a lot of teams get upset. And I think the Nationals, I think their grief is probably the dumbest one you're going to see. It was, what was it, a 5-6 run game?
Yeah, it was a 7-1 game. Yeah, they were winning 7-1.
I think it was, okay. It was either 7-1 or 7-2, but Estrada starts to steal second. He wasn't being held on. You don't want him to steal, hold him on.
Hold him on, thank you.
Not only that, but they got him out at home. He tried to score in a blue pit. Escobar makes an incredible throw home, gets him, and then gets upset. Now,
right.
What's ridiculous about this is you want the Giants to stop trying to score runs. All right. Well, why were they upset that he stole? Well, the first baseman wasn't holding him on the bag. Why wasn't the first baseman holding him on the bag? He was playing deeper so he could potentially guard against a hit down the line. Crawford's up, lefty batter, pulls the ball a lot. So they're still trying to get guys out, actively trying harder than they normally would to get the hitter out. But we're not allowed to try and score another run.
On that point,
makes
they were
no
shifted.
sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only that, but we had already scored 7 runs in an inning in that game. Like, they can't do that. The Giants have been shut out since the 2nd inning.
Exactly.
That was the most ridiculous one. And what makes this even better, and why I'm glad we're talking about this over the weekend, is the Giants played the Nationals again in San Francisco, and they got blown out 2 out of those 3 games. And in the first game, Victor Robles, who was one of the guys, national center fielder, who was one of the guys that was upset in that first unwritten rules fiasco in Washington, laid a bunt down with a 9-run lead.
Right.
Beat it out for a hit. So Giants are made it okay that this is good. Like, if other teams want to do this to us, that's fine. But don't be a team that gets upset with the Giants when the Giants do this, and then later do it yourself.
Exactly.
Either
That's
adopt the philosophy, or don't.
Right, exactly. That's my ridiculousness out of this. Is like, number one, Padres, last team that ever gets to talk about unwritten rules. They have broken pretty much every unwritten rule over the last 3 years. That's ridiculous, number one. Number two, ridiculousness number 2 is the fact that these teams are now doing it to them after complaining. Like, it's one thing if you're just one of these teams that's sitting back like, hey, all right, buddy, I got you. When we see you, we see you. That's fine. But to sit there, complain about it, and then do it, that makes you a hypocrite. And I can't stand hypocrisy at all. It's just annoying.
Sure. I think another funny part about this is we're fully in the era of players expressing themselves, celebrating we've got Jazz Chisholm out of Miami doing Euro steps as he crosses home plate. That's great for
Right.
the game. We've got Acuna with the mega
Yes.
bat flips. Amazing. It's great. But if your gripe with running up the score, so to speak, is that it's disrespectful to the other team, it's showing up your opponent when that's not the
Right.
mentality going into it. How is bat flipping and Euro stepping across the plate not more so showing up your opponent than laying a bunt down for a hit?
I mean, a bat flip is literally an FU to the
Yeah,
pitcher.
and that's
That,
great. Do that.
yes, it is. Please, every time. I want to see bat flips every home run. Like I am old especially compared to you, but I'm not that much of a codger. I love the personality of players. Like that's been the number one issue with Major League Baseball is that they got this thing in their head that they have to be the gentleman's league. They got to be the politically correct league. They got to make sure they have everything, all the buttons tightened up all the way to the neck. And it's like, dude, you're strangling your product. The reason people watch is to be entertained. Watching a guy slowly trot around the bases while gently laying his bat down is not entertaining. Juan Soto hitting a 500-foot blast and then flipping his bat 20 feet in the air, that is entertainment. Y'all need to market this, not quell it. It's annoying to see baseball continuously shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to marketing.
Oh yeah, they're the worst marketing league in all of professional sports. We've known
Right.
this. They're getting better, but they're getting better not because of people within Major League Baseball or the commissioner's office. They're getting better because of the people that are now reporting on baseball, the independent media
Yes.
types. That's why
Yes.
baseball is getting better right now. But one thing I want to touch on is, you know what else is great for the game? Jock Peterson getting heckled by a fan, stepping out of the batter's box, staring him down, then 2 pitches later hitting a nuke to dead center, crossing home plate, and then cussing out the said fan.
Yes. Please, we want more of this. Like
Yes.
this is not 1920 people. Like we want to be entertained. I need more of this. All of that, I want it all and more. And that's what they need to market because that's what's going to get the casual fan.
Now
That's the
I
only
know
way.
I know you're the host of this, but I can't pass up on this transition piece here. Going from something that we want more of to something that we don't want more of, and that's Trevor Bauer.
Yes, the Bouer outage is official. Trevor Bauer has been suspended for 2 full years worth of games. He is going to appeal, so we'll see if that sticks. But I want to know from you, is that fair or lenient?
So it's 324 games. He's going to be out through the 2024 season, and he's 31 now.
It's
It would be the largest suspension handed out by Major League Baseball since instituting their domestic violence policy. I've only got one problem with this. I personally think that Trevor Bauer should be out of baseball. But my one issue is Marcell Ozuna is still playing.
Yes,
That's my one
I am
issue.
with you.
Make it
I'm with
even.
you
And
on
so
both.
Trevor Bauer should be out of baseball. I've got no problem with the suspension. Make it more. He probably, if this holds up, he's probably done in Major League Baseball, period. I mean, he'll be, 33, 34 when the suspension's over. He'll probably go play in Japan in that time. That's probably, no, I mean, I'm only saying
No, I
that.
get it, but it's just funny to think about.
No, I'm only saying that because he has said that he wants to go play in Japan at some point in his career. So he would likely take this opportunity to go play in Japan. Whatever. Don't care about that. What I do care about is why are we coming down harder on Trevor Bauer than we're coming down on Marcell Ozuna? Is it because Trevor Bauer has been so vocal against the commissioner's office? Or is it because they think what he's done is actually more egregious than what Marcell Ozuna has done? Now, I'm not trying to compare the two, but
No, I mean both are absolutely ugly. So to give a quick recap of what we're talking about when it comes to what these men did, Marcell Ozuna just beat the dog breaks off of his wife on camera, but yet is still out here playing. Trevor Bauer had some, we'll say, rough sexual encounters. I think that's the most politically correct way I can put it. With
gone
a
too far.
woman, yeah, went way too far, way too far. I'm not going to go into the details because they're ugly, nasty, and they make me sick and pissed off at the same time.
And they're
So
really easy to access. Just Google.
just Google Trevor Bauer. That's all you got to do, and it will all come out. But these men both have been punished under the domestic violence protocols that were put in by MLB. I believe it was 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Marcell Ozuna got like a half a season suspension. Again, he was on camera beating the shiz out of his wife, and that's all he got. Trevor Bauer again had rough sexual encounters that were proven to be consensual. All criminal charges that were filed have been dropped. He is now suing the woman that pressed charges against him. But there has also been 3 other women that have come out since the suspension. So I have a feeling we're going to find a pattern of behavior with this man, and it's going to get uglier. And I think the stuff that MLB has that they can't tell us are why this has been, they gave the suspension that they did, how long it is because they have information we don't know, including on these other women that just came out. So even though we classify what he has right now as rough sexual encounters, we don't know what else this man has done. There's a pattern of a behavior here. Now, I'm not saying that he deserves to have the longer suspension than Ozuna. Like you said, I believe it should be fair. I believe they should both be out of baseball. And I have a perspective from this as the fact of I was raised by women. I have no brothers. I have 5 sisters. So out of 6 kids, I'm the only boy. I have a special affinity for women. And I understand that everybody's got their kinks. But reading what this man did to this woman, it makes my skin crawl. So I have my personal opinions about the fact that, yes, he should be out of baseball. But at the same time, I can say the punishments need to be fair. And if we're going to have Marcell Ozuna out here running around the outfield just because he didn't hurt Manfred's fifis, because we all know how sensitive Rob Manfred is and how bad at his job he is. So Bauer has no fear, and he's attacked Manfred at every chance he gets. So it might not seem fair, but this is how the cookie crumbles in these types of situations. If you punch up, you better be willing to take whatever falls down on your head. And that's what Bauer is dealing with right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He's now when you said that it was all proven to be consensual. I think what you're getting at is the LA judge denied the original woman's request for a permanent restraining order on Bauer, and then all criminal charges were dropped. I don't really think that it was all proven to be consensual at all. I don't think that initial accusing woman is relented.
Yeah, I'll backtrack that a bit and agree with that's more of what I was getting at, most definitely.
And I think also a lot of that is because Bauer has probably some of the best attorneys in the Los Angeles area.
Well, he's been getting paid, and that $100 million that he got from the Dodgers those checks have been clearing up until now. So he's had all the money in the world to take the best lawyers, and I do agree with you. I think he might have got off on some technicalities, but the man all charges were dropped, and that's where we got to leave it on that.
Yeah, but it's not over. He's not going away. I mean, obviously, he's appealing the suspension. I don't see it being overturned at all. It's just not really in Major League Baseball doesn't do that. I don't remember the last time a suspension has been someone's appealed the suspension. They're like, you know what? Never mind. But
he may get some knocked off, but no, it's not going to get overturned.
No, it's one of those things that I'm glad he was suspended. I think it was. I'm not going to say if it should have been more or less. I'll leave that for everyone else to decide. I just want to see these punishments be dealt out equally among all players, because there's no room for domestic violence in this sport, and that's why they instituted the policies. So it's time that they actually start using that to get it out of the game.
Right. Actually make it scary for the guys. Like, I think this could be a good deterrent. And I think that's another thing is that Manfred took a guy that he doesn't like and made an example of him. And he's like, this is what I'm, but the thing is the inconsistency undercuts that. Like, I really think that's what he was trying to do. But then he forgot that, he kind of let Ozuna off over here thinking that people are just going to forget about that. And like, no, that's not how this works. They might not talk about it, outside of this whole context, but you do something like this, it's going to make them dredge those things back up and hold you accountable. That's good journalism. That's how you're supposed to do it. We're supposed to be the watchdogs. when you do something stupid, we're supposed to tell the world about it. And
Yeah, I mean,
so Manfred's dealing with that as well.
absolutely, but at the same time, we're putting a lot of faith into Rob Manfred to make any correct decision. This is the same guy that
Correct.
referred to the World Series trophy as a piece of metal, the literal trophy that every single
Right.
player in your league is trying to accomplish every single season. What makes your league exist? You called it a piece of metal. It's the same guy that
Yes.
refused to suspend any Astros players after that cheating scandal. It's the man that voluntarily entered a lockout. It's the man that voluntarily canceled regular season games, and then in his press conference when talking about it was laughing and joking around as if he wasn't jeopardizing the future of the sport that you are trying to manage. So, I mean, what do we expect?
No, 100%. Like I said, I think we can all agree that Manfred is the absolute worst commissioner in all of sports. So let's go ahead and let's move on from a sport that can't get out of its own way and market its players to a sport that has mastered the whole art of player marketing, and that is the NBA in their biggest time of the season. The NBA playoffs, the first round just ended. Um, we've seen so many good series and some really bad series. Like, I had to watch my Nuggets get dismantled by the Golden State Warriors for 3 games, fight for it for 2 games and lose. You had the Boston Celtics absolutely mollywop the sorry franchise of the New Jersey or Brooklyn Nets. I almost called them the New Jersey Nets. That's how old I am, guys. Okay, that's how old I am. I remember the New Jersey Nets. So, with that all being said, first round recap. Who do you believe is most and least likely to advance past the semis that made it through the first round?
I mean, it's interesting. I was really surprised that Jason Kidd and the New Jersey Nets got knocked out so quickly.
I like how you did that. I see what you did there. That was great. I mean, hey, this team looked a lot like those sorry Jason Kidd teams in the playoffs that couldn't get anywhere either. So, hey, it works out.
Well,
But go
before we
ahead.
dive into advancing past the semis, I got to ask, what was worse for you in that Warriors Nuggets series? Watching the game or reading my text messages every single game?
Well, I should say that you only talked smack as long as your team was winning.
Oh yeah.
I will point that out so everybody knows that it wasn't just this back and forth. No, I heard from Quinn as long as the Golden State Warriors were winning. When they were losing, like the 1 game they did lose, I didn't hear anything from them, and then I didn't hear anything from them until the fourth quarter of Game 5. But no, you didn't bother me as much. You were actually more entertaining than the games up until Game 4. Like, that was the only game I really enjoyed. But we should have had a Game 6 if the Nuggets would have just hit some free throws. They lost by 4 points and missed 9 free throws. Like, that was the worst game I've probably ever watched. It
Yeah, I
was
mean the Warriors didn't play
hard to
well.
watch.
No team played well. The Warriors won. Yeah, you
No,
guys missed some free throws, but we're also just a better team. And I think should have been over. I mean,
nice
look,
little
you
shimmy
said it
there.
yourself after the first game.
Yes, I did.
The Nuggets just don't have the offensive capability that the
No,
Warriors do. So they weren't going to keep up. Yeah, maybe we would
no,
have had a game 6, but would
no.
have been
I
over.
I honestly do believe though, if MPJ and Jamal Murray are in that, we're at least going 7 games. With the way that those last 2 games showed out, with if Aaron Gordon plays the defense he did and scores like he did with MPJ and Jamal Murray on the court, we're at least going Game 7, and the Nuggets probably win that series the way that y'all were going downhill, and after the way y'all played in Game 1 of round 2. So enjoy the fruits of your labor this year, but wait until next year when we got MPJ and Jamal Murray on the court, and we'll see just how many of those text messages I get.
Sure. I mean, next year we're also going to have another year of development for Jordan Poole. We're going to have Wiseman hopefully healthy at that point, so you won't get to just dominate us on the boards. So, I mean, we'll see. But we're not talking about next year. We're talking about
No.
this year. And we should start with the games from yesterday because I mean, they were the first game was just terrible. The Celtics looked awful. And Giannis didn't even have a great game, but he threw a lob to himself off the glass, and the internet broke after that.
Right.
But,
Like John the first round.
yeah, you see Brad Stevens walk out of the press box, not the press box, the owner's box.
No, I didn't.
I think it was Drew Holiday hit a three in the fourth quarter, and Brad Stevens was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done watching this game.
That's hilarious. It's bad when you play so poorly, your owner doesn't want to see you anymore.
Yeah,
I'm done. That's yeah, that tells you how bad they were playing. And I mean, this is the Celtics team that just dominated the Nets that were supposed to be this quote unquote super team. But I will be right here to say that I told y'all this is what would happen in Brooklyn. I tried to warn everybody, but nobody wanted to listen to me. But I digress. This is what y'all get. The Celtics absolutely destroy you and then go into the next round and get embarrassed by the Bucks. Even though, like you said, Giannis didn't have a great. He did have a triple double. He had 24 points, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists. But that was more of a just he accumulated those because of
yeah.
how bad Boston was than really how good he was.
I mean,
So
he was great defensively, good on the boards, but he shot
right,
abysmally from the field. Now, I do think that this series is going to even out a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a 4-game walk in the park sweep for the Bucks. I could be wrong, but the Celtics are just too good to just lie down. I don't know who's going to come out of that series. I would assume the Bucks. I think they're more battle tested. Celtics always seem to have put together some sort of great run towards the end of the season, have some momentum in the playoffs, and then disappear when they meet a legitimate team. Now,
yes,
I'm interested mostly. I think I'm gonna leave the Warriors Grizzlies series out of this because, of course, I'm interested in that. I've got some sort of added investment into that, but I'm really interested in the Suns Mavericks series. Obviously, because it's going to determine who the Warriors inevitably play in the conference finals. But I think the Mavericks have a shot. I really do. And what I was watching Draymond Green's podcast today, trying to get some more insight into why he got ejected. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
okay, I'd like to hear that.
He likes the Mavericks in this series a little bit more than we thought, and I think that the more Luka gets time in these big moments, the more he's going to shine. Plus, Jalen Brunson is a star in the making.
I agree. But right now they are actually down by 12 in the second quarter. Just to give an update, I just had that come across. The Suns are up 47-35 with 8:17 left in the second quarter. They're going on right now.
You couldn't have led with that.
Heat. Hey man, I wasn't trying to interrupt you, but no. But I mean, still, it's the second quarter. They got Luka. They can go on a run. And it was 14 points up until a couple of seconds ago when Luka just hit a 2-pointer. But we also had the Heat beat the Sixers, which I think that's a pretty easy one. Joel Embiid having a crushed eye socket just torpedoed their playoffs. They're done. So I don't think we need to go too far into that. I think the Heats are going to pretty well handle the Sixers, and it'll be a sweep. Without Embiid, the Sixers have no chance. Harden cannot lead a team to the championship. He's too soft of a player. The way he plays, he needs free throws that dry up in the playoffs. And also with the rule changes, with not being able to kick out like he made famous on the 3-point line, getting all those 4-point plays, they're not happening in the playoffs. And without Embiid to take the pressure off him, and teams are just going to just beat on him all day, the Sixers are done. So we're not going to go too far into that series. But yes, I agree. Suns and Mavericks. The Mavericks have a better chance, but there's just something about this Suns team, even with the whole drama of Ayton not getting a contract and all of that, they've really coalesced around CP3. So I see the Suns coming out of that series. It's going to be hotly contested. Luka's going to have he's going to have a crazy game where he goes for 40, 50 points, and another game where he just ends up with a stupid triple double somehow. And they'll probably sneak out 2 wins. So I see it going to 6 games, but the Suns will come out of that eventually. They're just too deep, too strong. Even without Booker, the Mavericks just don't. A lot like the Nuggets against the Warriors, they just don't have the scoring depth to keep up with the Suns. But then they will run into a buzzsaw, and that Warriors Suns conference finals is gonna be a barn burner. That is going to be a great series, and that's coming from a guy that ain't got no dog in that fight. Like that series is gonna be good.
Yeah, well, I'll I'll go back to a text I sent you yesterday watching game one of the Warriors Grizzlies. I don't think I can make it through a best of five series between even the Warriors and the Grizzlies. I mean, John Morant is one thing. John Morant is a problem. And if he's gonna hit
Yes.
threes like he hit threes yesterday,
Yeah.
he's a problem. What I will say
Major.
about this Grizzlies team, they will disagree with me. Not that they care what I say, but they will disagree. And I just don't think that they're ready to make a deep run into the playoffs. They make so many mistakes. They are so young. They are so
Yes.
talented, and they will eventually get to a spot where they will run the Western Conference at some point, especially if they keep things together. That is a talented team, but they turn the ball over so much. They turn the ball over. Brandon Clark is just always falling.
Isn't he though? It's like I swear he's got an equilibrium problem. How much he's on the floor.
I don't know if it's like a flop thing, like he just wants fouls called, and yeah, sure, it's gonna end up in getting someone tossed out of a game and help your team, but it's also gonna end up in Wiggins just being alone under the basket because he's like gone over into the crowd on his back. Like that man is always falling. I was watching a film breakdown of that game today, and like every single like key play is just in Brandon Clark's falling off the screen again.
Right? It's hilarious to watch. That's a lot of body flopping all over the place. I don't know, but I agree with you on that. I do believe that Ja Morant and the Grizzlies are just a little too young. It reminds me of Giannis and the Bucks on they're kind of taking that same trajectory. Like they're just taking one good step every year. Like they got to the playoffs, they won a series this year. Next year they'll probably win an extra series. They probably go to the finals. And then they are the conference finals, I should say. Maybe squeak into the finals, and then the next year they might go to the finals and possibly win one. So like it's that same type of trajectory. They're just a little young. They need to find their Drew Holiday. Like that's what really switched that Bucks around with that defense that he plays, and still being able to be a problem on the offensive end. They need that type of player, that guy that's going to make them work hard on the defensive end because he works so hard on the defensive end. And it'll switch that team. That veteran leadership to help them with those turnovers, I think, would be great. If they could find their version of Drew Holiday, they can take that next step. But as of right now, where they sit with that youth, with that inexperience, I do believe that this is just going to be that year where they're going to have to take that hard loss. They'll probably give Golden State all that they can handle. They're going to wear them out, and it might be bad for the Warriors once they get into the next series. But I do believe when all is said and done, the Warriors will eke this one out. Probably more game six. I think at least 6 games, but Ja, if he, like you said, if he hits those threes like he does, this is probably a 7-game series. It's gonna take everything Golden State has to beat
I'm
the
not.
Grizzlies.
I don't think I'm as convinced as you that the Warriors are going to win this series. I think there's a really good shot, and I think, yeah, I mean, look, I want them to. I think they've got as good a shot as any. I think, I mean, they are a championship caliber team. And if they play like a championship caliber team, they will win this series because they are more experienced. When they actually play like it, they are less sloppy, and they've got so many offensive weapons. So they should win this series. I don't know if they're going to. I think game one was.
I'm just trying to keep the light on.
Oh, I was like, what are you doing?
I know,
like,
right?
I know you've been like talking all day, but man.
Right? Like this dude's losing his mind. I promise I'm not. I'm just trying not to go back in the dark. Don't do it.
I think the Grizzlies really needed to win yesterday in order to have the shot that they need to beat the Warriors. I think they needed to take advantage of Draymond being ejected, even though it was the wrong call. I think they needed to take advantage of some of those other incorrect calls that went against the Warriors' way throughout the course of that game, and they weren't able to take advantage of that. So I think that they missed a great opportunity to well, keep home court advantage,
Here
but
we
kind of
go. I got you. Keep going. There we go.
establish themselves as a front runner in this series, and they weren't able to do that.
I got you. All right. So it seems like we pretty much agree. It looks like we're agreeing that the Western Conference Finals are going to be the Warriors and Suns, and the Eastern Conference Bucks and Heat.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you've got written on our rundown is, do the 76ers have a chance without Embiid? And I want to push back a little bit,
Okay.
not too much, because
Yep. That's where we were going.
do they have a chance? Yes, of course they have a chance. They've got James Harden on their team. Is James Harden going to show up and be a good NBA player in the playoffs? No. They've got a chance. He could. He's got the ability to do it. He just won't.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go technically, yes. If we want to go straight Dumb and Dumber, you're telling me there's a chance. Okay.
Well,
Yes. There is that. There is
you said
definitely
it was going to
the.
be a 4-game sweep without Embiid. There's absolutely no chance that team is done. I just don't see it as cut and dry. The Heat are really good. The Heat are a great defensive team. Jimmy Butler is going to
That's the
eat
key.
James
Yes,
Harden
that's the
alive.
key.
But
That's
at the
why I'm
same
saying it.
time, there's not a chance that the 76ers win a game.
Yeah. No, not without Embiid. They just don't have the
How long
dog
is
in
he
them.
out for? Is he done? Is he done for the season?
He's done for at least this series. I mean, the dude got his freaking eye socket caved in and a concussion. So at last I checked, it was indefinitely. They didn't even have a time. I mean, they might now that he's actually seen a doctor and stuff of that nature. But I mean, you got to think. You crush your eye socket. There's
New
that depth
report from
perception.
Woj. Sorry, new
Okay,
report from
go ahead.
Woj. Joel Embiid could return from injuries as soon as Game 3 or 4.
Okay. So, I mean, if he comes back and he can actually see and play, they have a chance to win a game or two. But he's coming in at game 3 or 4 when they're probably down at the minimum 2-1 or 3-1. Like, that's the best I can give them without Embiid is one game. Because, like you said, Jimmy's a dog. Harden is a puppy. Jimmy will eat him.
The Heat are without Lowry.
I mean, yeah, there is, but I mean, I'm just saying
I'm
this
just trying to
Heat
play
squad
devil's
is.
advocate.
I got you. This Heat squad is just nasty, like you said on the defensive end. That's where it's going to matter because if Harden can't score, there's absolutely no choice. There's no chance for the Sixers doing anything, and that's exactly what the Heat are going to do. They're going to key on Jimmy, or not on Jimmy. They're going to key on James, and then let whoever else. Like if you can beat us with somebody else, great. Why would you not put 2, 3 guys on James and then let him facilitate? I mean, really, who else on that Sixers team scares you?
I mean, Tyrese Maxey's good.
I mean, he's good, but he doesn't scare you.
He
he's
doesn't.
not. He's not going to go off for 45 points and hit 12 threes. You know, that's just not going to happen.
No, I get it. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
I'm just trying to play some sort of devil's advocate.
I got
because,
you.
I mean,
got you. I appreciate you.
the
But
one thing is, it's I mean, at least we get to watch games in Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals.
right, you get to see the nice backdrops for all the TNT and ESPN coverage. So there's always that niceness. Well, until they go to Philly and then it's ugly. But hey,
it's funny. I was trying to get more info on Embiid's injury earlier today when we were talking about discussing this, and so I just Googled Joel Embiid, and like 4 of the first 5 articles that came up were all about him playing for France in the 2024 Olympics. Like nothing about his injury or the playoffs.
Gotcha. Well, I was just seeing a couple people just sneak in. I just wanted to say we appreciate y'all. Appreciate the like. Make sure y'all hit all them buttons, all the red buttons. We need all the nukes launched. Those are free for y'all, priceless for us. So please hit them. That way we can keep doing this for y'all. But yeah, no, what you said with Embiid, 100% correct. And I think ending on that would be a perfect way to end this first episode. I think we've done the best of what we can do here in the West. So we will go ahead and end it here. As always, I am your host, Dan Wetstein with the Answers 42 Media Network. Again, this is West is Best. We'll be doing this 2 to 3 times a week. Quinn hasn't given me a commitment on which of those we'll do, but at least you'll get 2 of these a week, maybe 3. We'll see how many more we can squeeze out of them. But again, we We appreciate you coming in, my guy. Come check us out. We're going to be covering, like I said, all 3 sports nationally. We'll try to keep it homer free, but we can't promise anything because we do love our teams. So,
Absolutely.
anything you want to add in, Quinn, before we go?
Yeah, this was a blast. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yes, man. Every single time I had an absolute blast myself. So, again, for the Answers 42 Media Network and the West is Best podcast, as always, don't question the blue.